critical of human perspective.
Welcome, everyone, to Unbiased and On the Fence. We are here with Spiritwalker. He's got a channel. I've got a link to his channel down below. Talk to me, Spiritwalker. Mandela Affected, right?
Mandela Affected, yes, and freaking out with this this whole story.
Well, when did it become real for you? When did it come be real? Make sure we got sound. Okay, yeah, we do. When did it become real for you?
Well, it had been real for, I don't know, since maybe 5 years from now, in the past. I started noticing those creepy things at Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Like many people, I had memorized those movies, but I didn't think too much of it. I actually thought it was just fake memories.
Yeah.
But then I started coming across a couple of videos on YouTube and a couple of sites, a couple of posts. The people having the same experience, then I realized it was real. You can't really have fake memories in a community. It just doesn't happen. So I started investigating, and it just blew me away. How common the whole thing was, and how deep it goes.
Definitely. I'm surprised that you knew about it so long. I mean, gosh, that's quite a while. So when did you come out publicly with this?
Publicly, it was actually earlier this year. I actually took a long time to convince myself that I wasn't crazy, or I wasn't just misremembering things. And this is why I can say with a lot of I wouldn't say authority, but I can say with a lot of conviction that people there have been Mandela affected. They're not making this up. Of course, there are a couple of things that people will forget and remember things wrongly, etc. But the general Mandela effect community is spot on. And the crazy thing about this is that it's not just one issue. There's a lot of sources, a lot of channeling material, a lot of communications saying, look, what's going to happen when you guys are getting closer to this critical moment is you're going to see a lot of weird stuff, and you're going to notice it.
Yeah.
And this is even in the Bible. So it's not just a couple of people doing posting videos. It's actually pretty much every pillar of our culture has been pointing to this. So this is the ramifications are absolutely as deep as they can go.
It's pretty wild. I mean, for me, gosh, it took me over a year of knowing that it was out there to actually get over that hump of disbelief. Even though I knew Fruit Loops weren't spelled like that, I knew Looney Tunes weren't spelled like that, my brain, I mean, I think most people are like this, that your brain just convinces you must have been wrong. You must have spelled cartoons CARTUNES maybe, because I made that connection as a kid. But anything is more plausible than the impossible. So your brain can convince you of a complete lie. And it was for me the rodent stinker statue. I had one as a kid, and I knew that that fist was to the forehead. There was just nothing anybody could tell me any different, you know. So that was my thing.
That is exactly right, and this is it actually shows the importance of what you are doing. For example, you know, spreading this news, because if it's only you, if it's only the person looking at these things, they will actually convince themselves that, okay, I'm just misremembering. And it's only when you talk to, when you expand your views, and you talk to, you know, you go into these hangouts, and you see that all the people are having the same experience, and you're able to freely talk about these things without being calling, you know, a crackpot. That's when you realize that it's real, and the whole thing changes for you.
Yeah.
So thank you for.
There's a delay. Oh, no problem. I'm so glad to have you on, and to be here as a support for others, because somebody hopped in the chat last night. It was at Magic Sister, I think. Anyway, she said she'd actually gone to the doctor, and he had prescribed her some psych meds, and she just sort of been in her house for the last year. And God, my heart just went out to people like that are seeing these things. They feel like it's something in their head that, you know, because they know things have changed. And how could someone believe something like that if they weren't really remembering that stuff? Of course you'd feel like you're losing your mind. So I'm glad we're out here letting people know you're not losing your mind. We're all with you. We are sane, and, you know, we're not crazy.
That's exactly right, Shane. And just wanted to say, look, it's this what you're doing, putting these groups together, is actually service to humanity. Because in the case of your friend there, she would, you know, just see herself as crazy, and she would start taking medication, and would feel very much worse for it, and then it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And the real deal would be, you know, swept under the carpet. So basically, she's not crazy. She's just ahead of the curve, and she's seeing things that other people don't see. Now, the thing is, we all live in a pathological society. So if you're not pathological, you have to be crazy. That's how these things are put to us, and it's actually the other way around. When you start getting away from the pathology that we live in, then you start being bombarded with well, you must be crazy. You need to take antidepressants, and you know, it's not like that at all. Now the thing is, this is happening, and it's a function of the moment that we are now. There is quite a lot of discussion about the Mandela Effect being, you know, CERN related. I think that CERN has something to do with it, but I think that the Mandela Effect, as I put in my videos, the Mandela Effect is human generated. It's just we are changing timelines.
Just by our human consciousness, you think?
Consciousness, yes, exactly.
I've been seeing the same thing with like a split in consciousness. That way, the people that aren't seeing it really don't see it. They're kind of tapped into a different consciousness. And then the people who are tapped into this other consciousness. I don't think it's timelines, but I think that's sort of a good way to look at it for some people, because it's confusing. It's very convoluted. You know what I mean? So
it's extremely convoluted, and it goes into quantum physics, where you go and talk about, you know, parallel universes. And I have in one of my videos, I discuss how some things in quantum physics could match the interpretation of parallel universes. So if you have an atom that is not here or there, so it can't be located in time, and space. It's the Heisenberg principle. That actually is completely consistent with the possibility that that atom is not really in our universe. What we are seeing is just a projection or a shade of that atom into, or that subatomic particle into our universe. So this actually goes into this idea that we have parallel universes, parallel realities. And my gut feel is that the Mandela effect is related to that. It's a colliding, or it's two or more related parallel realities colliding in some way. Now, in the past, this may have happened, but we would be none the wiser. We wouldn't be aware of that. But I think that because there has been a shift in consciousness, we have been more able to hold on to something bigger than ourselves. You could call it our higher selves, or the universe, or the God mind, whatever you want to call. We have developed this ability to step out of these three-dimensional or four-dimensional limitations, and actually realize that what we remember is no longer what we see around us. So it's this cognitive dissonance that is the Mandela effect, and it's only possible because I think that humankind is operating at a different level.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why when I was just saying in the previous broadcast, I think we have an opportunity to sort of tap into this Christ consciousness in a much easier fashion than Jesus did 2,000 years ago. I mean, and do the things he did, but much easier than it was for him, you know?
That's right. That's right. Because it's not just you, it's also the energy around you, and it's the frequencies, and it's the energy of the people around you. That's why Jesus said, look, I can heal you, but only if you have faith. So basically, when he was saying this, he was saying, look, I'm not going to be the one healing you. You're going to be the one healing yourself. It has to be you have to tap into this higher realm yourself, and this is the way to heal yourself. So it's when you extrapolate this physical reality in which we live in. So he was saying that, he was very clear, but we wouldn't understand 2,000 years ago. You know, today we are not very sure if we understand it. So the only way that he could explain that was, look, have faith. That's the only expression that they would understand. So the Mandela effect to me is, I really love the way you put it. It's tapping into Christ consciousness. It's tapping into something much bigger, much higher. And to me, this is really just the beginning. I'm really very happy to be alive.
It's an awesome time to be alive while this is all happening.
That's right. And the one thing that I wanted to tell you and tell your viewers as well is that you guys are really very special, because if you are, well, you could be on the beach right now, or you could be doing something, you know, or getting drunk or something, but you took time to talk about this. So chances are you guys are what the Law of One calls the wanderers. So it's people that know that they have already come here from higher realities. They have put their hand up to say, I'm going to change that. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this, this oppression that certain groups are exerting on humanity. There is a danger not only for planet Earth, but also for other planets, other star systems as well. Because if they can control this, if they can turn this planet into a negative, a fourth density negative, planet, then they can use this as a base for other incursions. And there's quite a lot of people, of witnesses from higher densities. They're looking at this, and they can't really interfere, because that would be a breach of our free will.
Yep, definitely.
Well, the only way that they could interfere, so they're, quote unquote, governments, they can't do anything. The only way the only thing they can do is if there are some some brave warriors, or what Simon Park called warriors, is their governments could say, look, if you're really concerned with the injustice there, you're going to have to go and incarnate on that planet, because we as a collective, we can't do anything. That will be a breach of free will. That will be a breach of the law of confusion. So we have, back in the 80s, the law of one was already saying, look, we have around 30 million wanderers here. So the people that are here, they may not even remember, they may not even know where they came from, but they are here. They're not actually third density people. They are maybe fifth or sixth density, incarnated on a physical body. More recently, David Wilcock and Corey Good, they said, look, if we had 30 million in the 80s, I would think that we would have 200 million or 300 million wanderers on the planet right now. And I'm really very sure that you and your viewers as well, they're all wanderers, because it's like you have a bee in your bonnet and you can't let this thing go. You have to go deeper and deeper. That's the typical sign of a wanderer waking up.
And we never really fit in our whole life. We got bullied. We didn't understand why people would bully other people, and why there's people starving while there's people filthy rich. That just makes no sense to most of us.
That's exactly right. It makes no sense and it's so critical that some people can't take it. Some people actually commit suicide. For example, the one of the researchers of the law of one, Don Elkins, he killed himself. He was being attacked, and society was in such a mess that he actually said, "Look, I need to check out."
Yeah, I had heard about that. His health had deteriorated so bad, and they were going to try to put him in the hospital. And he said, "I'd rather die than go into a medical facility." And then there was this police standoff. I forgot. I did read about that. That was interesting. The way Ra even warned him on that last broadcast, that last session, that he was going to get attacked, and it just went down from there.
That is exactly right. Wow. You're exactly right. So his health was attacked. His mind, of course, was attacked, and Carla Ruckert was also attacked. She was being attacked while she was channeling the law of one. Mm-hmm. So it's absolutely relentless, and so this is the message for you and for your viewers as well. It is tough, but this is the most beautiful fight. It's what the Apostle Paul said. This is the good fight. He said, I fought the good fight, and this is it. I think that we are soldiers, we are warriors, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that the whole universe is watching. I think that we are a big because the universe, these higher dimensions, they can just tap into the Akashic records and see what's happening.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's the main event. Everybody's gathering, they're watching. We have no idea that this is the Super Bowl of planetary events, and it's going down right now. We volunteered for this. We don't even remember, and we got all these synchronicities that's bringing us together, and then you got the Mandela Effect. It's just amazing because I'm starting to see how everything's orchestrated and how I've been led to all this different stuff. Other people would call it coincidence, but I know it's a synchronicity. I'm right on. It's signpost. You know what I mean?
That's right. I love the way you put it, and it's dead right. It's the galactic Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so we have come here to we volunteer. We raised our hand up to be here and to help. Because this is the only way that we could help without infringing on the free will of other people, and this is actually beautiful. So anytime that you feel attacked or you feel down or depressive or anything like that, should raise your spirits, because that is the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get yourself down too much. It is tough. There is a community, which is why I love what you guys, what you're doing. Putting these people together. It's the good fight. The Bible. It's only now 2,000 years later that we are finally understanding what that was about. The good fight. That's it. It's Armageddon is happening right now inside your head.
Yeah, exactly. That's
inside
amazing.
Our heads. Yeah, we fight not against flesh and blood, but against the spirit.
The principalities. Yeah.
Principalities. That's exactly right. So it's every time you are put in a position where you're going to I'm going to have to sell my principles to get ahead of in my job, go up the corporate ladder, and then you go, no, I'm not going to be able to sleep, at night if I do this. That's the fight. That's Armageddon.
Yeah, that's the battle between the light and the dark. Are you going to take the high road, or are you going to take the low road? And a lot of these archetypes that we see with, the devil and God, and these, choosing between the devil or an angel on your shoulder. I think that's a great analogy, because it's all happening within our brain. Are you going to choose the left side of your brain, the ego, the selfish side, or are you going to move to the right side and tap into your love and compassion for others and the higher mind? That's why Jesus went to sit on the right hand side of the Father.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you have things like I have this in one of my videos. So Jesus was saying, look, none of the words of the prophets, not even an iota, will change until the end of time. And then we are seeing Bible changes.
Yeah.
We are seeing iotas being changed, and more than iotas being changed in the Bible. So this is the end of time.
Yeah.
And what actually happens is when I say, well, what's the end of time? Usually we think of it's a big explosion. Everybody's going to die. I don't think that's it. I think that what they meant by the end of time is the end of the prison of time.
Yeah, like a new chapter starting.
Exactly. So humanity will no longer be imprisoned by time. So our consciousness will be able to transcend time, or to transcend timelines. And yes. What's one example of that? Well, it's the Mandela Effect. So we are, for example, here in a timeline where, I don't know, C-3PO has a silver leg, but I know that that's not that is not the case. You know, so my consciousness is gone beyond the current timeline that I am locked in, and my consciousness is saying, look, this is not how it was when you lived all of these things. So it's the human consciousness stepping out and bursting out of this prison of time, this four-dimensional, you know, 3 physical dimensions plus time, this four-dimensional cage. This is the what the Bible called the end of time. So it's the end of the prison of time. Another example as well, for example, if you some people do this. Some people do regression under hypnosis.
Mm-hmm.
So they go back, their consciousness leaves their body, and they go back in time, and they actually can go to the future as well, to future incarnation. So it's human consciousness has reached a level that is so powerful that time is not a cage anymore. That's the end of time. This is why the period of Earth being, you know, governed by, you know, these guys, the the Illuminati, the reptilians, and all of that stuff. That's over. It's over. They're going to squeal. That's fine. But that is over.
And that's all getting into the whole Orion group that the Law of One talks about, that they're just trying to progress with a love for service to themselves instead of service to others. That's why they hoard. That's why they imprison the others. And we're taking a different route, a positive route.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you're very knowledgeable of the Law of One. The Law of One is actually a relatively dangerous book. And the reason is that the Law of One treats humanity as adults. And they say, look, there is the positive side and there is a negative side. And I'm going to tell you the characteristics of each side. But look, you guys decide. Yeah. You guys decide. And so this is treating us as adults. You see that because we were in a different state of mind 2,000 years ago, that's not what the New Testament tells us. The New Testament tells, look, develop love and compassion. That's it. Treat other people the way you would like to treat. You would like to be treated, and that's it. And the same thing that Buddha said. The Law of One came along and said, and to me, this is the greatest sign that we are at a different level. We are already, as a collective, we are operating at a different level. The entities, Ra, they came along and said, look, this is service to others. This is service to self. The negatives can also ascend, and this is also service to God in a way. But we have chosen service to others. We have chosen to ascend in a positive way. You guys make a choice.
It reminds me of like they're casting for a play, and they're saying, do you want to be a good guy? Do you want to be a bad guy? We got this play that needs to play out. We need some bad guys. We need some good guys. Pick which one you want. You know, they sort of leave it up to you. And it's just amazing to me. And they even let you know the love path is easier. You're going to get more help if you take the love path. And if you take the negative path, you've got to deal with the disharmony of not going with the love of others. There's going to be this... you know, you're going to be fighting against the current. But I think it's neat the way that it shows you. It reminds me of that old song by Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven, where it says there's 2 paths you can go on, and there's still time to change the road you're on, you know?
That's a great analogy. And look, this is when I spoke about synchronicities. This is really beautiful because and I'm going to go off in a slight tangent I have claustrophobia. I go into a lift and I freak out. I'm kind of healing this and you know, slowly, etc. But the other day I realized that I think I don't remember where I got this. That a lift is like an occult symbol. Lifts represent the coffin, and lifts go to hell.
Mm-hmm. Just for my American viewers, he's talking about an elevator. They call it
yes,
elsewhere.
Yes, an elevator. Yes, yeah, exactly. It's a lift or an elevator.
Mm-hmm.
The stairway is symbolic of the path to heaven, and the stairway to heaven. So all of these archetypes are, you know, in our minds, and we don't even know where these things come from. But it's a choice, and we were given this choice. Well, I don't know, 6,000 years ago, and Jesus repeated this choice 2,000 years ago. And the law of one came along now and said, "Look, I'm just going to clarify to you what the choice is, and but it's completely up to you." And the reason why they said that was that they tried to help humanity back in the days of Atlantis and Egypt, and what they built was co-opted by the Orion group. So, you know, they try to help us with the pyramids and with establishing the first tendrils of religion, and that was co-opted. So because of that, they incurred a little bit of karma. So they are kind of karmically linked to humanity, and the law of one is one of their attempts to write. So they actually, this is why the law of one is so neutral.
Yeah, I think they were able to say a little bit more by giving both sides of it. If they had kind of given it this biased, they would have limited themselves by the free will. But by sort of telling you the whole story, they're able to tell you a little bit more of it and let you choose. That way it's not, even though they're positive, they're giving you both sides of the coin, so they're able to give you more of it. That's what I think, anyway.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, because the choice is yours. If they make the choice for us, then it wouldn't be a real choice. So we would be like robots trying to follow the positive path, and they would infringe our free will. So they would incur more karma. They would have to come back and do more stuff. Now the interesting thing is that they say that the negative path also leads to God. And this freaks me out enormously. This because basically what they're saying is you can develop your consciousness also in the negative path. Mm-hmm. And you can start to say, for example, we in humanity, we're going from third density to fourth density. So it's a new stage of consciousness. We're going to telepathy and telekinesis, and we're going to be able to move things with the power of the mind and all of that stuff. So you can do this, you can learn this, and be a negative person. And you're going to and this is also some path that leads back to God, because what God wants is the development of consciousness. If we were all, there was absolutely no trouble, and we were only on the beach, you know, eating mangoes the whole day, we wouldn't do anything. I'll just stay there.
Yeah.
So conflict leads to work and development.
Yeah. And that's so funny you say that, because when I think about that, back to the play analogy, is that, you know, if you don't have any bad, how do you know what good is? If you don't have hell, you don't know what heaven is like. So you got to have both sides of the coin. And they tell you it's harder to take the negative path, but your earthly life will actually be easier. as far as having all the wealth and all the power, but your chance for progression in the negative is actually going to be harder. But it all ends up working out in the end for the good. That's why I like the analogy of it being a play, because even though these people, we view them as being so evil, that stuff drives us back further. It polarizes, you know, and that gets back to that whole thing where if you're lukewarm, got to spit you out of his mouth or whatever, because these things polarize you. It either you can take the situation, you get cancer, you can either take it and move to the negative, or you can move to the positive. But these catalysts, they call it in the Law of One, are all there to help push us one way or the other, whichever way we decide to go. And some people will get real cynical and they'll move to the negative side. And, you know, they might have to turn around and do it again or whatever. But the whole point of it is that we're not in the middle. We get pushed to one side or the other, and it's our choice in the end which way we want to go.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. And then when you mention if you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out. This you know, I've just lit a light bulb in my head, because this is I hadn't thought of that. that is why you have that passage,
Right.
because if you're kind of in the middle, you're not doing anything. If you're really bad, you're going to try to progress in the way that they try to progress, and you're going to have a really hard time. But anyway, that's their choice. But if you're really trying to serve others and develop love and compassion in your heart, then that's the path.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're kind of in the middle, you're just going to do nothing. The Law of One talks about the three-way split. So we're going to have some of us on this planet are going to graduate to fourth density positive. A very small proportion is going to graduate to fourth density negative, and they're going to have to get out of this planet because Earth is going to be a positive, fourth density positive planet. And the vast bulk of the population, which are exactly what you said, if you lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out. The vast majority, maybe 80% of the population today, they are going to have to repeat third density.
Mm-hmm. On another planet somewhere else.
On another planet somewhere else. And some traditions say, so for example, in Brazilian Spiritism, they say that this planet is going to be planet X or Nibiru. And they're going to have to repeat third density. And the other day I was watching Star Trek, one of the most recent Star Trek movies. I did a video on this, but then YouTube took it out because it was copyright infringement. I had parts of the movie there, so it's a shame. But so I got one of the red marks. But if you start, I'm going to remember the name of the movie. Or maybe one of your viewers will remember it, will know it, and it's freaky. It's the Enterprise is in a primitive planet where they have some humanoids, some humanoid people. They're clearly in the age of in the Stone Age, and the Enterprise is there watching these guys develop, and they decide to help this community because there was a volcano that was about to explode. So they do this. They somehow fix the volcano, and by doing that, they expose themselves to the population. So the population starts worshiping the Enterprise. They start drawing on the Enterprise, on the sand, and then bowing to the Enterprise as it was a god. And by doing that, they breached the Enterprise crew breached the first directive, which is not to interfere. But they decided to interfere because they decided to save all of those Stone Age people. Now, the first scene says something like 2,300 and something, Nibiru. That's how.
Oh, really?
That's how the movie starts. That's how the movie starts.
That is
so,
wild.
And you know that Hollywood has a lot of you know, high-ranking Freemasons, and they do know their spirituality. They may not use it in the best ways, but they do know what's happening. They do know what the spiritual traditions say, and it was freaky. I had to make a video. I did it, and then it was blocked out.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me with the Never-Ending Story. When I watched that as an adult, and I saw these similarities to what was happening right now. You've got the nothing was sweeping through the land. Fantasia, which is explained as the hopes and dreams of mankind, and if you can take that away, you can control them. So the nothing sweeping through, and it's destroying Fantasia, and the whole idea of it is that if they can stop the nothing, then they can restore this fantasy land of Fantasia. And it was exactly. a total archetype of the right brain and the left brain, and this whole duality that we experience here at third density, where we are right now.
Yeah, exactly. So I got it. So it's Star Trek Into the Darkness.
Into the Darkness. I will definitely watch that, man. That's got me excited about watching that.
If you see that, you're going to see you are going to see what the so-called repeaters, the lukewarm, what's going to happen to them? They're going to have to go back. They're going to have to go back, and it's what freaked me out is that French and Brazilian spiritism. They say, look, they're going to not only they're going to have to go back, their souls are going to have to go back, but they will have to go back to Nibiru, which is a more primitive planet. The magnetism is more primitive, it's more base, and they're going to have to repeat. And then the law of one comes along and says, so it all converges. It's amazing how everything points in the same direction.
But they will forget, like we had to forget coming here. So it's not like they'll have this hell of knowing what they did. They'll just sort of have this in their consciousness that sort of survives. Whatever lessons they did learn, they'll carry along with them and hopefully evolve and make it the next time. But it's not sort of this idea where religion tells you, hey, you're going to be burning forever and ever if you don't make it this time. So you want to make it, but it's not, it's just like you flunk a grade more than it is like, you're gone and you're going to have to suffer and be tormented for eons, So this whole idea of this fear-based religion, I just try to tell people all the time, I'm like, you want to make it, definitely. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to increase that number of positive harvested to fourth density. Yes. That's my whole intention here. But if you don't make it, it's not like you're going to burn forever. You'll just flunk. You'll learn your lesson. You'll have to do it over again.
That's exactly right. You're going to have to repeat. So it's your higher self saying, look, sorry, this guy is not really ready yet. There's more stuff that needs to be learned. Now, so when we discuss the negative ascension, I actually racked my brain trying to understand how that would be the case. And the law of one doesn't really say it suggests what's going to happen in really very subtle ways. And if you read between the lines, you get it. You understand how hellish it is going to be to live in fourth density negative. They don't tell you this with all of the words because that will be an infringement. So that there will be seen to be pushing you towards the positive. So they really kept everything absolutely neutral.
Because wasn't there a planet that where they sent two wanderers there they ended up meeting up. They were positive to start with, but then they flipped to negative, and then they had to come to the realization that they switched from positive to negative. Wasn't that in the Law of One on a different planet?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And this happens in it's not only Earth. Earth, for some reason, as you said, it's the Super Bowl is the big game, but there's all of these parallel things happening as well. So basically, say for example, the Law of One says, look, in their very nonchalant way, they say, look, fourth density negative is also about domination. It's all about domination. So people trying to get control over you. And when you become fourth density negative, you can't stay in a planet like this, like Earth anymore, because you're mixed. You have to go to a fourth density negative planet. Mm-hmm. And then the Law of One goes, but these places are places of strife. They're places of infighting, and then the image popped into my head. Can you imagine, say for example, going to school and you're the new kid, and everybody is a bully that is bigger, meaner, more horrible than you, and there's no way out. Even the principal and the teachers are bullies. Yeah, that's what a fourth density negative planet will be. It's like going to if you watch Shawshank Redemption, or one of those prison movies where you go into one of these places and you are seen as fresh meat. Yeah. And everybody
there, a complete cutthroat reality where everybody,
exactly.
So
it's cutthroat reality, is dog eat dog, and you're going to have to be tortured and sodomized, and until you fall in line. And even then, your faction is going to be fighting the other faction, and it's going to be never-ending war, never-ending conflict, and that's going to be your life, pretty much. So when you mentioned something that was really very interesting. So you have a good life. You have lots of wealth, etc. But that's because we are still third density, right? That's because the curtain hasn't closed yet, right? So all of these, the Rothschild Zionists and all of those guys, they have this ability because we are, at least until recently, we're still during the decision-making period. So they said, look, I am a negative person. In order to be really bad, I need money. So I want to incarnate in an Illuminati family. And then you incarnate there, and then you get sodomized. You get to try and raise your kundalini and all of that stuff. But you have money, and then you get an opportunity to exert your power as you have requested. But this is only allowed because this is still the decision-making period. Yeah. That period is over. The negatives are going to go to a fourth density negative planet, and the separation, it's the three-way separation, it's going to start taking place now.
I believe so too. And here you've got a lot of people feel like our planet is that way, but think about all the we hear about bad news in the news. You hear about killings and robberies and stuff like that, but most people are good natured. Most people won't go and kill somebody or steal. So you've got this in the midst of all these bad things that happen on Earth, you've got this ray of hope. You've got this person, maybe a bystander that sees you're in need or runs off the burglar or whatever. So there's all this positive that we just don't hear about. But until you see something like a hurricane and you see people stranded and you see people, hey, I got a boat, I'll come help. And, they don't expect anything in return. They're just going out and, volunteering their time, just like we volunteered to come here to Earth. And I think you know, you don't hear about all the good, but there's plenty of good people out there, and they just need to hear this empowering message that, you know, the powers that be are only going to be in power for so long, and that we have the power to actually use our own consciousness and positivity to change our reality and shift.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And in a way, all of these the negative things, all the shootings and the wars, and even World War II, World War One, etc. So all of these things, and the wanton crime and violence that we have today, this is, to be honest, this is the Orion group, or the bad guys losing their cool, because they know that everything that they have tried before didn't work, and it's not going to work. So they are kind of losing control over what to do. So they are lashing out. So it's like when people say in India, it's never corner a tiger, because that's where it will be most dangerous, because there's nothing to lose. So now we might as well just try everything. So this is why we are seeing a lot of violence, a lot of crime.
Like we're stirring up the race stuff right now. In the false flags.
That's exactly right. Things like ice. So ice is a drug that gives control of your brain to lower astral entities. So basically, you take ice, you are surrendering your body to demonic entities. And there is even more powerful than ice that is coming on streets now. But this is desperation. So the key message is, instead of when we hear this news, instead of getting depressed, we should understand these things for what they are. They are the last signs of desperation of a regime that is gone, that knows that its time is gone. It's not going to stay on Earth, and these are the final battles. The war has already been won by the positives, but that's going to be, as the law of one says in their very nonchalant way, there's going to be some inconvenience. That's the understatement of the century. But there is going to be some inconvenience, but Earth is already on a positive timeline, a positive path towards love and compassion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's sort of a do or die situation for them. It's that last ditch effort to do what they can to hang on to their power, but it's futile. In the end, the positive's going to reign, and that number is going to be different. I mean, we can get more people on board with us, but we're still going to prevail in the end. There will be a harvest, a positive harvest, and we can add to that number by getting the word out, really.
That's exactly right. So, which is why it's so beautiful what you're doing, because it's exactly on that middle path. It's like we need to try to get to those that are borderline. That with a little bit of effort you could make it. These are the people that we need to get to, and you're doing this in a very nice way, because the people that are really positive, the people that are out there in soup kitchens and say, look, I need to do something about this planet, and even if I don't know why, but I do need to do. They may not know anything about the law of one. They may not be religious at all, but it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. They get it. They get it. So the idea is that this vast majority, there's going to be in the middle. These guys need to be reached in some way. But having said that, we can't. We have the figure of Bible bashers,
right?
So we can't turn to that either, because that is going to that's an infringement.
Mm-hmm.
We need to respect people's decisions, and if they want to decide, I don't know, everything that I want to do in my life is to watch sports and drink beer. Look, that is a viable choice as well. So we don't have the right to force anything on anyone.
And they even said in the Law of One, it's not like a religion, like a lot of religions today say, well, you've got to say this specific prayer or whatever, or you're not in. The Law of One isn't that way at all. It's like you could totally not know about the Law of One, but if you've got this greater than 50% service to others and you just help people and you're just a good-natured person that feels that need to help others and not to be selfish, then you're sort of in. It's like automatic.
That's exactly right. That's absolutely right. In fact, if you compare, so when you go to Buddhism, so they say when you have an overhang of bad karma, you get locked into samsara. Samsara is the cycle of birth and rebirth, mm-hmm. and reincarnation. So because you're going to have to go back to pay off the karma that you have accumulated. But the funny thing that Buddhist scholars also say is when you have an overhang of good karma, you will also get locked in reincarnation. And this is very strange, because I thought good karma was a good thing. But basically what they are saying is when you have this need to help others, when you have this desire, when you identify yourself as that person that is necessarily helping others, and that's what I do, that's what I really need to do in my life, you will necessarily lock yourself in a cycle of reincarnation. You're going to come back over and over again to help, because that's your identity. And you can only escape the cycle of incarnation when your willingness to help is spontaneous. So I call that the Joan of Arc complex, where you suffer, you're the one that suffers, and because you have the weight of the world on your shoulder.
I see. It's like having a balance.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to remember that the weight of the world is not on our shoulders. People have their freedom of will and freedom of choice. We present the information, and we try to get to people as needed, and if they require, but they have the choice, and the choice is theirs.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like we're presented with opportunities to help, and it's sort of
exactly right.
Yeah,
it's being presented with opportunities to help, and then helping, rather than having a need to help. Identifying yourself as the person that goes out there looking for this, because then this is also not the way to go, because you're infringing on other people's freedom of will. So if you're
neglecting your own self-development as well, if you're just, because that happens to people, they're so busy feeding other people, they're starving themselves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's one of the rules of I love the way you put it, because it's one of the rules of rescue teams. So when you go all of these here in Australia, we have these surf lifesavers. You have that in the US as well quite frequently. But the first thing that they these guys learn is when you go on a rescue, don't become the victim. If you have to make a choice between you and the other person, well, save yourself. Because what happens is, if you put yourself in danger, then now you have one less rescuer and one more person to be rescued. So you're putting a huge amount of pressure on all your other mates, all of other colleagues that didn't make the silly mistake that you did. So it's like, preserve yourself just so you can help, and you have to make that call. So it's like exactly what you're saying. So don't starve yourself just so you need to feed other people. You have to be aware that you are needed.
Mm-hmm.
You are needed, and you need to be strong. And when there is a situation where you say, okay, that's as far as I can go, I can't help that person anymore, then that's it.
Right. And I even noticed that when you're trying to convince somebody of something and it goes from a discussion to a debate, then you sort of get people riled up with the anger. And, if you have not love, you're defeating the purpose of the whole journey,
That is exactly, and it's so true. And it's exactly how the Orion group acts. So basically, someone decides to set up a charity, or I don't know, a church or something, and they have all of the good intentions. Then when those initial people, retire or go away, then the Orion group comes along and say, okay, no, now this is about law. You're going to have to do this, this, and that. And this is about doctrine. My doctrine is better than yours, so I'm going to fight you. And then there's splinter groups. So this is a technique that they use.
And they'll turn it around and have it to where, you're actually doing a good thing, but really you're doing something contrary than what you began the journey to do. So
exactly right. So that's when I realized that you need to be. That's when I realized why the law of one was being so neutral and treating us in such an adult way, because this is the choice is ours. You can't choose for anyone else.
Yeah, so, and I love the law of one, man. It's when I came across that, I just couldn't stop reading it. It had all these answers, and as you read it, you can tell it's not BS. I mean, you're like, this stuff is for real.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I live in Australia now, but I'm originally from Brazil, and in Brazil and France, there's something called Spiritism. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of. I don't know much about it.
Yeah. So basically, it's a set of basically what people get together to develop their abilities to help other people from a spiritual point of view. So the healing powers and entity attachments. So they try to remove attachments and all of that stuff.
Sure.
So
okay.
This happens in the US quite frequently as well, but but there are I think it's more independent. So called Spiritism, but it's basically just healers helping others in this way. And there is this French guy called Allan Kardec in the 1800s, and he was saying, so he came up with this channel material, and so it became very famous in France, and then for whatever reason it became famous in Brazil as well. And what he was saying was actually a lot of what today we know as the law of one. So it looks like the law of one is one step up to what that material was about. And as I said, it all converges. It all goes into one higher one higher reality, one higher truth.
Yeah, and I was really surprised when I looked into the work of Dolores Cannon and the things she was saying or getting back in her whole hypnosis sessions. Sorry, I can hardly hear myself. How it lined up with the law of one, but it was a completely different source. And I'm like, wow, this is so amazing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
It almost validates it that it's a separate source that doesn't rely on the other, but it's saying the same thing. So now you're telling me about this ancient source that was sort of saying the same thing. So
it's saying the same thing, exactly. And the key message is, look, we are all part of the same source. We need to go back, and we can only go back by evolving in consciousness. And the way to evolve in consciousness is to develop love and compassion. Because how are we going to go back to unity if you still think of yourself as separate? You can't do it.
Yeah.
And the way to realize that we're all together in this is developing love. I actually think that love is not what we understand. I think that love is some type of energy.
Mm-hmm.
That we as third density humans, we don't really understand, but we have that as a feeling, as a warm and fuzzy feeling, etc. But I do believe that at some level, love is a type of energy that these entities are asking us or are telling us, look, you guys can tap into this as well. You don't know what it is yet. You don't know what this energy is, but you can tap into, and you have that inside of you as well. So just go for it.
I totally agree. I believe it's that whole intelligent infinity thing. It's the source field that David Wilcock talks about. Everything's really made up of love, and because that's the only way you can have this full energy that's completely supportive of itself. And I think a good example is if you think about the world population, if everyone just worried about themselves, then that would be one person looking out for one person. But if you think of everyone always looking out for everyone else, then you've got everyone looking out for you and you looking out for everyone. That's the total population minus one looking out for you because you're, looking out for everyone else. I mean, it's not rocket science.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. You even have these. I think that this is it could be a Islamic tale. So someone died and went to hell, and hell was a big banquet where they had like massive spoons, like 1 meter spoons, and or 2 meters, or let's say 6 feet spoons, and they'll try to eat with that. It didn't work, and then heaven, on the other hand, was exactly the same banquet, the same table, the same food, the same spoons, but there people were feeding each other with the spoon, and then that was pretty easy. So it's just a state of mind. Do I accept that I'm part of something bigger? And all of your viewers and yourself, you have this intuitive knowledge that this should be the case, and all we need to do is to create this group. So we're not going to go out there Bible bashing people, but we have to create this group where people say, look, I am different. I don't fit into society as it is constructed today, but it's okay because I have these other people that I contact, and they say that there is a reason behind this.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, I think it's important to note that it's not like any other group to where we don't include anybody that doesn't want to come and join. Anybody can come and join, and we consider ourselves to be brothers and sisters of everyone else, not any better, you know. So
that's exactly
completely
right.
different model.
Yeah, yeah, and you know the moment that that you have these entities with hierarchies, so this guy is the top, then the other guys they have to respond to that, and the moment that you have that, that's control. That's Orion.
Yeah, and when you think of it like a group of evenly placed particles, even it's going to have more strength as sort of a blanket where everything's flat and even across there. But as soon as you started getting these pyramid shapes, like they do in cheerleading, when you got this real fragile grouping of people trying to create this pyramid, you know, it's easy. You knock one guy out and the whole thing comes down. But when you've got this even blanket, it's so much stronger. It becomes a fabric, you know?
That is a fantastic analogy. That's a fantastic analogy. That's a great way to see it.
So that's the world we should be living in. And man, I can't believe the hour went so fast. Is there anything besides your YouTube channel that you want to promote?
Well, look, I'm working towards a book, but I think it's gonna. I'll try to come out next year. So it's not, and it's called the Terra Experiment. So TERRA. So Terra is planet Earth. I'm still going through it, but it's exactly about this. We are an experiment. We are a place where the negatives. I don't know if you heard of the Lucifer experiment, which is this idea where the negatives were allowed to thrive to some extent to show the entire universe how messed up that would be. You know, wars and torture and all of that stuff when you choose the path of separation. And this is a display. This is the Super Bowl for the entire universe. And unfortunately, Earth got caught up in that. So Earth, we I think it was David Wilcock in the US, and Corey Good. They actually said, look, Earth is one of the strongholds of the reptilians, unfortunately. But Earth is also the place where they're going to suffer their worst defeat.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We have very good people, your listeners, your viewers. We have very good people that, people of light, spiritual beings. We had enough of this crap. And we are going to turn the table. It has already started to turn. We are on a positive timeline, despite what CERN tries to do or anyone else tries to do. And there's no stopping now. It's like a freight train, going towards a positive ascension.
I totally agree with that. And man, I really enjoyed our time together. Got to have you back again in the future for another chat.
I would love that. I would love that. That's great. I love it.
Well, awesome. You guys in the chat room, make sure you click on his link in the bottom down there. He's Spiritwalker channel. And go subscribe. He's got a lot of great stuff. What do you have, like half dozen videos or so? Or a dozen videos?
31 videos. It's so far there's some material on time loops and the Mandela Effect. Most videos are on Mandela Effect, but there's some other topics as well.
Okay, yeah, I saw. Was it the one about? Are those furry pigs of a Mandela Effect? Those woolly pigs? Was that in your last video?
No, that was about.
Well, I know it was about not eating meat and trying to work, because I've been trying to change my diet too. I'm still a meat eater myself, but I keep hearing people saying, you know, you gotta. The meat has a lot of fear in it by the way it's they keep them and the way they raise the animals and things like that, and that fear gets into the meat, that vibration gets into there, and then you eat it and it's not good for you. So I've been working on that, but someone mentioned woolly pigs were a new Mandela effect, and those pigs you had in the video looked like hairy pigs I've never seen. So I was wondering if that was a Mandela
well, there
effect.
you go. Then that is. I'm going to check that out, because that was a synchronicity.
Oh, really? That's the way things work in this world, man.
Yeah. I'm going to check that out. So the issue with I'm still eating meat, but look, you don't have to give up entirely. You could just reduce, eat less. That's fine. Or the meat that you eat, you make sure that animals are treated well and all of that. Because look, we all this flesh is going to have to die and go back to the earth one day.
Yeah, I call them meat soup.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because it's just the third density tool for us to experience this reality, and it really is in a lot of ways like an astronaut suit. It's something to allow us to survive in this current situation we're in, and it's got sensors on it, and it's got, it's really an instrument. And like they call it all one, they call it the Carla the instrument.
The instrument, that's exactly right. And look, the insights that you have, the sensitivity that you have, this is your higher self. This is your sixth density being, talking to you, because this being is already operating at a different level, and this being is you, and you're just conveying all of that knowledge back down here to this this physical environment.
Yeah, a lot like rovers on Mars. It's you got the higher self, and then it's communicating back and forth with sensors and all that stuff. So yeah,
that's right.
Well, man, I really appreciate having you on, and definitely have to do this again in the future.
Well, I'll love to. That's great.
All right, but let me check real quick, make sure I don't have any questions I'm missing out on here. And if you want to hop into the chat room as soon as the broadcast ends, actually, I'll let you go now so you can hang up and join the video in case somebody wants to chat with you if you have time.
Yes.
Awesome. So I'll say goodbye to you now, and then I'll talk for a second and see you in the chat room.
All right.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
Well, that was awesome. I closed out my own window too. So I don't have any video, but I wanted to thank Spiritwalker once again, and thank all of you all in the channel for hopping in. I think this was an awesome video, and really unscripted in a lot of ways, because we were just chatting, and I'm glad it went that way because it was awesome. So I'm going to play a song here for a second, and make sure I'm not missing anything. Make sure I'm not missing anything. sure I'm not missing anything. Alright, I want to make sure I kept this going long enough that he can hop into the chat. I was afraid he wouldn't make it if I ended it too soon. Alright, I wanted to thank Spiritwalker once again, and we will definitely have him on again in the future. But for now, I will see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one.